Hello, this is Spencer from Crimson Ledger Comics, and this is your week in comic books. Let's start with Bleeding Hearts number 1. I'll note a quick disclaimer here that I use the full 1 through 10 rating system, so if something is just mid or average, I say 5, not 7, so please keep that in mind. So, with Bleeding Hearts number 1, this is a black comedy about a zombie whose heart starts beating again. So we start off with a group of survivors who are all fleeing the zombie horde. It seems most of the world is undead at this point. Poke is trying to hide his beating heart. Apparently that's the most valuable and tastiest part. And we meet Poke's friend Mush. Turns out Poke has the right arm of Mush, and Mush has Poke's right arm, and that's the way that they're kind of bonded. Zombie society loves human meat. Poke doesn't. That's something that's more than likely going to become a part of the conflict. There are themes in this of a sense of identity and kind of moral questioning by the end. And the zombie culture is kind of a weird inflection, or maybe even a reflection of life. There's a point here where they say, the Poke says that they love life, they go searching for it everywhere, but they love the living because they like eating them. And it ends with Poke finding, well, let's leave it at that, just to avoid spoilers. The art, the compositions are really nice. You can see that in some of the preview images that I've put on the screen. This nice looking art, a better than average story, so I'm going to rate this at 6.5 out of 10. Our next book is Absolute Wonder Woman Annual number 1. So this is not the same artist as the last issue that I read, the last one that I had reviewed. So Hayden Sherman is not on this one. This issue, quick story synopsis. Athena is praying to... Sorry, not Athena. Wonder Woman is constantly praying over a period of time to Athena about the suffering of Medusa. And we're seeing time go by as Wonder Woman's battling foes, and she continues to pray and ask for a counsel. And that's kind of what this whole book is persistence, perseverance, and empathy. This is a very much a story of healing and almost kind of overcoming trauma. I'd say the art is really nice. It's not the art that I prefer, or the artist I prefer for Absolute Wonder Woman, but for an annual, it's fine. This book has great art, good story, more so than Bleeding Hearts, so I'd rate this a 7.5 out of 10. Next up is Cyclops. So Cyclops number 1, this starts with Magik and Quentin Quire in the hands of AIM. There was a line here that it seemed there was either maybe something lost in translation with the letterer, or the script was not edited the way that it should have been. I'll read it. The way I see it, the next 10 seconds are going to play out in one of two ways. In the first, you try to overwhelm me with superior firepower. In the second, you get to walk away with your teeth. What's it going to be? And that's Cyclops saying that. So AIM decides, no, we're going to target him still. But then Cyclops says, the second it is then, implying that they would walk away with teeth. It was one of the kind of weird writing choices. I will say that it's probably the only really weird one in this one. Cyclops then, in a separate scene, receives a note about the destruction of the X-Mansion. He meets with this doctor, and then he's flying back to Alaska in the Quinjet, when he's shot down by two Reavers. Well, one Reaver in particular shoots him down, but there are two there, and that's kind of the start of the story, because this is a mini series. The art is pretty good. Well, I'll say okay to good. Um, I'm not completely sold on it, but I think by the next issue, I will like it. Um, and I'd say that the story is kind of standard slash boilerplate, but I love that it's not really too mired down in the weeds of current post Krakoa X-Men lore. I like that you can just kind of pick this book up and read, oh, Cyclops is Cyclops. These people are acting like they're normal characters. Um, and it is actually kind of fun to read. So, with that, I will say I rate this 5 out of 10 just because the writing is pretty standard and the art is just okay, in my opinion. So, next up, we're going to look at Mark Spector Moon Knight #1. This is Jed MacKay's return to the book. I haven't been reading Moon Knight for a little while now, so I don't know if this is a 2-month, 3-month, half a year thing. Cover is amazing. I love the art that's on the inside. I really hope he continues. I'm going to continue reading this book because I love Moon Knight. But this story doesn't really work as a #1 because you have to know so much of the previous lore with Moon Knight. You can't just go in and there's very little context given to the way everyone acts, and I'm sure they're assuming that people are going to continue reading and perhaps find the context that way. But it starts with Moon Knight, Mark Spector, being held captive. They're trying to get info on Jean de Camp, and instead of regular torture, regular physical torture, it's psychological, with Mr. Fear poisoning Moon Knight's mind, making him more submissive. So they have him in this kind of office setup where Mark is a mailman. This continues until eventually Zodiac shows up and reactivates the Moon Knight persona, but this is a slightly different take on that. Mark Spector doesn't know he's Moon Knight again, and this Moon Knight is a more cartoonish version than we've seen before. I'll say overall the story is meh. I've read quite a few of MacKay's other Moon Knight books. Like I said, I haven't in a while, so I'm assuming where I'm lost is the same way a person who saw Moon Knight would be lost as well, who just decided to pick it up out of the blue. So for this one, I'm gonna rate it 5.5 out of 10. It was pretty middling. The art gave it that half step above because I really wasn't enthused with the story overall. Next up is Wade Wilson Deadpool #1. The art in this was really good. I quite enjoyed the artwork. You don't feel too overloaded on the backgrounds at all. Everything's really clear. The action actually looks actiony, if that makes any sense to you guys. And everything's clearly communicated. And it also doesn't feel too over the top, even though it probably is supposed to be. Wade Wilson is probably the most annoying person in comic books. I will keep it PG because my notes are not. The jokes, they're not funny. They're not fun. Wade's doing this job for Hammerhead, taking out drug competition, and they're on a dairy farm, and it's just constant cheese jokes. I could make one now, but I'm not going to because I'm going to spare you from my corniness. Throughout this book, we have monologue from Deadpool where he's trying to get across that he's trying to only feel pain because he can't feel anything else in him at all. and that something in his life needs to change, and that's when the end of the issue comes, and what is his presumed daughter sends him notes from the future, and we kind of get the start of where this story is going to go, where Deadpool is going to have a hero arc, maybe. But he even quips at the end that he's probably just going to screw it up anyway. I'm going to rate it a 5.5 out of 2, just like Moon Knight. The art carries both of those books for me, but the story is just not quite there enough for me to actively praise it, if that makes any sense. And finally, we have Ultimate X-Men 24. Now, this is the last issue of Ultimate X-Men by Peach Momoko. I want to get this out of the way. It's dumb that they're ending the Ultimate Universe. This is not a good final issue. It doesn't wrap up anything at all that came before it. And it isn't just me saying this because I haven't read the book in a while. I read the first 12 issues. I stepped away for a bit. There are certainly things I forgot. I will get that disclaimer out of the way. However, this, as a last issue, seems like the first issue in a new story arc that just isn't coming. A few of the characters in here are... So you have May, Nico... May and Nico, sorry. Looking into these quote-unquote suicide pills called Stardust, and they come across Yoru, who seems to be this version's universe of Dazzler, because they're all searching out. The ultimate goal is to find Hisako, and they're not successful by the end of this issue, and it ends on a cliffhanger. So it just kind of makes me wonder, did they tell Peach Momoko they were going to end the book and she just decided anyway to go ahead with the story? Are there plans for Ultimate X-Men to come back and pick up the story later on? It's not clear, but this is a really good story. It's pretty intriguing, and it's kind of got this somber feel because you know it's ending and you're not going to get these answers. And the main character that the book had been following, Armor, is gone. And we're left with no closure. And you kind of get that in the way that Momoko illustrated everything, especially towards the end of the book. There's a lot more muted tones. Yeah, you have bright and vibrant, but most of the environments are really muted grays and purples and these kind of cool colors that give you this feeling of sadness. Momoko continues to be this really quite brilliant artist on this book, and unfortunately it's ending, so that's that. And for the reasons I've said, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Alright everyone, that's going to wrap up this video. That was your week in comic books for the week of February 11th, 2026. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe and like the video. Thank you. Bye.
Bang, bang, bang.